Hi, I'm Les Nelson and I'll be your host today in Field to Feast bluegill fishing. Now, Field to Feast is a series of videos that I've put together to help you have success in fishing and in hunting. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to select the equipment that you'll need. I'm going to show you how to choose the baits that will work and how to find waters that will be productive in bluegill fishing. And then I'm going to go beyond that and I'm going to show you how to clean the catch that you have, and I'm going to show you in the evening how to make a delicious meal that will make your family and friends glad that you took up bluegill fishing. So if you're ready for a great adventure, I'm going to show you how to have success in bluegill fishing from Field to Feast. I'm going to be fishing today with a friend of mine. He's my next door neighbor, Brandon, and he's 11 years old, and just about anything that I show you today you can do, even if you're 9 or 10 years old or if you're 89 years old. You'll be able to catch fish. We're going to be catching bluegills at a spillway on the end of this beautiful lake that's near my home, and I brought with me about 100 crickets. And in late summer, crickets are about the best bait that you can fish with. And as I always say, if you want to start out fishing, start out catching bluegills because they're really aggressive and they love to eat just about any kind of bait. But in late summer, you can't beat crickets. So let's go up here and we're going to catch some fish. We're going to go down and fish this spillway, which has been super at producing big bluegills. And we're going to see if we can't catch a couple. Today I'm going to be using a braided line. It's a 6-pound test line. And there are two types of lines that you can buy. There's a monofilament and braided line. The braided line is stronger and it's also thinner. It has many strands of microfibers that are wound together, and it's thinner than monofilament. It doesn't wear as well because it does have a little bit of a roughness or texture, but it's also very strong, and it has a real strong hit when you set the hook on the fish. It doesn't stretch, it doesn't have elasticity like monofilament line does. Now the knot that I'm going to be tying is a modified fisherman's knot, and I've got my numbers 8 size hook on, and this number 8 hook is a cricket hook. It's a long shank, very small hook, but it has a long shank on it, and that makes it easier to take this hook out of the fish's mouth. So I like using a long shank hook when I can. Now I've run my line right through the eye of the hook, and I'm going to make a loop around the index finger on my left hand and put the index finger of my right hand right at the eye of the hook, and I'm going to take my line and wrap it around that loop 3 times. And then I'm going to run it right through the loop that's at the eye of the hook, and I'm going to run it back up through the loop that was on my left hand. Now this is a modified fisherman's knot, or I don't know if there's a name for it. Now I put a little bit of saliva on the knot to keep it from having heat and friction, which will weaken the line. I tighten it down like that. Now this is really important for monofilament line, that you put a little bit of lubrication on it. It's not so important with the braided lines. Then I'm going to clip that off near the knot. The knot is going to be the weakest point of your line. So if your line is ever going to break, it's going to break at the knot. So you need to have a really strong knot. We're going to be using crickets, which is a great live bait. Hopefully you don't have an aversion to bugs. If you're like me and when you were a kid, you caught grasshoppers all the time. And I'm going to take the hook and I'm going to go right in behind the head, and I'm going to run it right through the body like that. And that's the way it's set up, and that's the best bluegill bait that there is. There he goes. Well, he's not a knothead or a shell cracker, which is what we call them in the South, but he's big enough to eat. And I'm going to use a metal stringer on this one. Now you can use a nylon stringer or a metal stringer. You're going to open up the metal stringer, and what you want to do is you want to put the tip of that metal stringer, the tip of that loop, right through the bottom of that fish's mouth, and then you're going to hook it closed. On a nylon stringer, just run it through the bottom of their mouth, because if you run it through their gill, like most of us were taught, it'll end up killing the fish, and you want to keep that fish as fresh as possible until it's time to cook. If I was closer to my car, I'd have an ice chest and I would immediately ice them. There you go, right there. Get him? All right. Oh, I got one. Is he big? No, he's not too big. Now the fins on a bluegill are very spiny, so the way you keep those fins down, smooth it from the front, and then you can take the hook out. And this long shank hook is easy to grab onto. And then he's ready to flip back into the water. Oh, I got another one. This one might be a keeper here. Yeah, that's a keeper there. Oh, that's a big one there. Oh, I got a nice something. Man, if this is a bluegill, he's a beast. Oh yeah, I got a nice one here. Look at the size of that one. Check out that bluegill. Little one. I think I got another keeper here. Yep. He's barely a keeper, but we got to have a meal today, so we're gonna keep him. That one might keep. That'll keep. That's a good one. Good job, Brandon. We're catching a lot of big ones today. We're catching some small ones too. But I think that when you're using crickets, the big fish get preference on the type of bait that they're going to eat. And when you're using a worm, it's not as desirable to the big fish, but that cricket is really desirable, so we're catching more big fish using crickets. We've got almost a mess here for a good meal tonight. We're going to go up over the hill here, and we'll fish a little bit on the other side. Oh, there he is. There he is. It's a bluegill. Okay. Well, it's a beautiful day, and we're catching fish. And you can't beat that. trout on the Mississippi River with a friend of mine, Don Schroeder. I always say that if you don't have your own boat, always have a good friend that's got one, and Don's been nice enough to bring us out here to fish. We're going to fish bluegills up here in some of the backwaters off the dam, and just give you a different look of places that you can go that'll be really productive for you for fishing bluegills. Try to show you some different techniques. We're going to be using worms today, and I think we'll catch enough for a meal, and that's what we want to do, is be able to catch enough for a meal and have a good time, have some good fellowship. So. There he is. Little one.
Right on the edge, right?
Yeah.
Not too bad. It's not. $4 or 40?
Oh, I got it. Yeah, half night crawl. Dropping it right in on the edge of that green and bringing it out. There he is.
I think that's where they are. It's right in, that's a nice
Right
one.
in the schmuck.
That's a nice one.
Yep. Now what I'm doing is I'm threading on a half worm. I always use a half night crawler. And I'm using a short shank, and this is about a number, I would say this is about a number 6 size short shank hook. So I thread the worm onto the hook, and then I let the hook dangle out of the center part of the worm that I'm fishing. And now I've got a split shot that's about 8 inches above the worm in the hook, and that split shot takes it down, but the worm's going to float down real slowly. The bluegills are in this area here of there's a lot of grasses and seaweed right along the edge here, and they're right along the edge, and so I'm flipping it into the water right on the edge, and they're coming out and hitting the worm as it falls to the bottom.
There you go. The bass. Huh?
Might be a bass.
It's really running.
Not a bass, it's a big bluegill. Oh, it's a
Nice
bass.
So it didn't?
Yeah, it's net. Oh, yeah.
Nice one. There you go. Nice bass. It's probably a 16 incher.
Now, one of the things I always tell people is that you can always catch a bigger fish on a smaller hook, but sometimes you can't catch a small fish on a large hook. Now, I mean, I'm using a really tiny hook that's a bluegill hook, and that's a pretty good sized bass to catch. So I always recommend that you use the smallest hook. You know, if you get more fish if you use a smaller hook. There he is. Oh my goodness. They must be pulled up over there. Good. It's small. Going to be a line watcher. Be able to see my line right across the top of that water and watch it when it takes off. There he goes. And I got him. He's not real big. Now I'm going to let him go and see if I can catch another one here real quick. There he is. Maybe this one will keep. Yeah, he's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a nice one. Well, if you've watched this video, you've learned all the basics that you need to know for catching bluegills. In the next section of the video, we're going to talk about how to clean them, and then we're going to show you some of the best recipes on how to fix them. Bluegill is probably the best tasting fish that is in the waters, and though they're small, they're great fighters, and they're really voracious eaters. You can use a lot of different baits for them, so I really recommend them, especially if you're a novice fisherman. Get out and catch yourself a dozen bluegills or so, and feed your family and make them glad that you took up bluegill fishing.